Tony Speaks, and this is my lovely wife, Kim. We are the founders and co-creators of the lifestyle brand and podcast, Becoming Disciplined. Every week we meet, learn from, and share best practices with highly disciplined men and women from a variety of fields and endeavors.
Follow us on our journey.
Veronica Reid is a native of Northern Virginia by way of New York and the great state of North Carolina. Ever since she was a little girl, she always wanted to create stories that would help to empower and inspire others in their own lives. A graduate of Shaw University, she worked as a public school teacher for 19 years in the Washington DC Metropolitan Area. Veronica is currently the founder and owner of Reach Scholars Tutoring, LLC and Natural for You, which are handmade hair and body products. Her goal is to continue on this journey of entrepreneurship and to help others along on their journey to help them make their dreams a reality. Veronica is married to John Reid, and this summer they celebrated 10 years of marriage. But this week, Veronica Reid is becoming disciplined.
Today on Becoming Disciplined, we interview brand new author and entrepreneur, Veronica Reid. Veronica, welcome to Becoming Disciplined. We are so honored to have you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Now, Veronica, before you educate us and share your life story or share your new book that's coming out or that's already out, I think it's good for my audience to be aware of your context. I know you and your husband are big fans of comic books, okay? So every superhero needs an origin story, okay? So can we be aware of your origin story? Tell us the beginning of your story. Where did you grow up?
Of course. So I actually I was born in Manhattan, New York, and I was there until about 11 years old. And then my mother and I moved to her family home in Franklinton, North Carolina.
Wow. Okay. So what was it like growing up in Manhattan? How was that experience? That had to be different.
You know, it was a pretty cool experience. I do remember there were times where we had an opportunity where we could, hang out. And I do remember seeing times where people were breakdancing. This was in the 80s. So that was a big thing. I remember seeing that. I do remember seeing one of the members of Run DMC. He was out in our area watching it. So I remember that very vividly. And I always kind of held that with me as something, because he's one of those members are like just an icon for us. So, that's something that was really awesome. So just the music, and then moving to North Carolina where everything was a lot quieter. I had to actually get used to not hearing the music and not hearing the bustling of the roads and the buses and things like that, the cab cars. So it was a little bit of an adjustment.
Okay, all right. Now, Franklin, North Carolina, is that over there by Charlotte or is that by the coast? Where is that at?
Well, there is a Franklin, North Carolina, but where my family lives is a Franklinton. So that's actually closer to the Durham area. Okay. So it's like there's a major road that you can take, Highway 56, and you can kind of drive through there and it can take you through onto Raleigh, Route 1, you can go there. So we're like in between Raleigh and Durham.
Okay. Awesome. Now, how did you let John become a Duke fan? That's did you convert him to being a Duke fan, or because most North Carolinians I know that are inside from North Carolina, they're all UNC fans.
Yes.
so.
Well, I always like to be different. So when I did move to North Carolina, I did notice that like most of my family were North Carolina fans. And so I could never get on that bus. And once I started really following Duke and I just really loved just the team, especially that 1990 team, that really got me hooked on there. And I've been a fan ever since. And then when I met John, he said that he also liked Duke as well. So that was like one of the things that connected us.
Okay, all right, all right. Well, we forgive you. We forgive you.
I know.
We love y'all anyhow. We love y'all anyhow.
Yes, I've gone through many arguments with family members regarding this, but they're okay now.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Now, when you were a small child, was there someone who inspired you with their level of discipline?
Yes, actually. When I was younger, when I was a kid in New York, I wanted to be a news reporter. And then there was this news reporter on one of the local, I think it was Channel 4, NBC, and her name was Sue Simmons. And so I always loved watching her. She always had like this grace and this poise, and I always admired that. And I said, oh, that's what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be a news reporter. I want to be just like Sue Simmons when I become older. So that was somebody who I definitely admired growing up. One of the people anyway.
Okay, Sue Simmons. All right, we'll have to check her out. You know, did she retire or is she still doing it?
She did retire. I would say she probably retired in the 90s. And I have to double check to see if she's still alive. But she's up there in age now, because when I started watching her, I think she had been doing this for many years, working as a reporter for many years.
Okay. Okay. Now we time travel in this podcast, and we like to time travel, and the purpose of the time travel is to provide value to our audience. If you could time travel to that 15-year-old Veronica who is in North Carolina, probably a little bored in Franklinton, North Carolina, what advice would you give 15-year-old Veronica?
Oh, wow. One of the things definitely it's going to sound funny, but there have been like plenty of opportunities for people to play the lottery and win millions of dollars. So I probably would have done some research on one of those actual lottery winners number, and I would have slid it in my pocket, but like, hey, you know, during this time in 1997, make sure you play this number.
That's the best answer we've received so far. Now we asked this of all of the people that come on the show, and it's around a 50-50, and we just like to hear different perspectives. If you could tell us, how well do you sleep? Do you sleep real easily all through the night, or are you someone that's up at night? Are you a night owl? How well do you sleep?
I'm actually a night owl. Yeah, me and John are opposite in that. So I am a night owl. So once I do go to bed, I go to sleep. I'm like knocked out. Like I'm not a light sleeper at all. So when I do go to bed, I go to sleep. But I do tend to go to bed on the late side. So.
Okay. Now let's fast forward a couple years. You know, was it Miss Simmons?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Miss Simmons inspired you, you know, and she was someone you kind of looked up to. Did you when you get older, did you go, what college did you go to?
Yes. So once we moved to North Carolina, I graduated high school. I went to Shaw University, and when I was in high school, my family went to an AME Zion church. It was Allen Metropolitan, so it was a historical landmark, and so we learned about HBCUs and just how many powerful people in African American history who went to an HBCU. So that was something that I wanted to achieve, and so I elected to go to Shaw University, which is in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay, awesome. A lot of people I went to high school with went to Shaw.
Yay.
Now, question: a lot of people from Fayetteville went to Shaw. You went to school with a lot of people from Fayetteville. I know that much.
Cool.
Question: what was your major in college?
Yes, my major in college was elementary education, pre-K through 6.
Okay, awesome. Now, what advice would you give to someone who is just starting off in college, and it's their first year away from parents, it's their first year locked into a college atmosphere? What advice would you give someone who's just starting off there?
Oh, wow. I would definitely say to not get distracted. It's very easy to get distracted. Even when I was there, I can remember several people who I started with and who didn't graduate with me. And that was probably within the first year. So right. Definitely not get distracted, stay focused. It's a lot going on. There was a lot going on when I was in college, and there's a lot even more now going on that can make anybody get off track very easily. So just remember your focus, remember why you're there, and pursue that degree. If that's your goal, do that.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Now, question, where that journalist inspired you as a child, but then when you started college, you started getting into education. So what moved you from journalism to education?
It's a lot of things, but one of the things is I also wanted to become a teacher as well. It was kind of like I had many different ideas of wanting to do different things, and that was one of the things. And so education was something that I felt like, okay, it's going to always be very reliable. There's job security in it. And my mother really was behind me going into education. She didn't really like the news reporter side because she was afraid that if I had gotten into it, I wouldn't have been able to find a job. So she was like, what are some other things you like to do? And so that's how I came into education as well. And I thought about minoring in journalism, but I didn't want to stay longer than 4 years. I was ready to go when it was time to go.
Okay. And now, how long did you teach, and what was the time frame of that?
Yes. So I probably, I would say in terms of teaching in the classroom, 19 years. And so I started early 2000, more so like in the first year of 2000, the winter. And because I kind of came in half a year because I got a job offer when I was living in North Carolina to work in Prince William County schools. And so I was excited because I always knew that I wanted to move and teach in a different area other than living where I lived. So it came out that was an opportunity. And so I jumped on it.
Okay. Now, for 19 years, that's quite a long time of educating our youngsters. What advice can you give to, right now, a lot of people listen to us from a county where I live called Caroline County, and there's a lot of teachers that are reporting for the first time. What advice can you give to that teacher who is just starting off and just reporting to their first classroom this September? What advice can you give them?
Oh, wow. And there's so much that has changed with all the different protocols for COVID and just so many different things going on right now. But I would say the main thing is to not get burnt out. It's like teachers who enter the profession, the first 5 years, they either get burnout or they go into another field, or they just sort of try different things, but it just doesn't work out for them. So it's very easy to get burned out. I would say that if there's a particular age group that you prefer, go for that age group. If there's a particular, after you've done it and you feel like, okay, you know what, I'd rather work with middle school, I'd rather work with kindergarten or high school, then do that. Because if you're in a particular age group or a particular subject and you just aren't really feeling it, it's going to be rough on you and you're going to quit. And I'll just be honest with you about that. So definitely, and then make sure that you have time for yourself. A lot of teachers like myself in the beginning, we stayed late. You'll end up staying late. You'll end up taking work home with you. But I would say try not to do that. Try to do whatever you can there. And when it's time to leave, go home because it can be stressful.
Awesome. That's great advice. That is great advice. We expect so much from our teachers, and it seems like our pay does not match the expectations. We brought you on here because you have a wonderful new book out. Okay. And I can't wait to get my copy. All right. I can't wait to see it. All right.
Yes.
But with that new book, it talks about a particular experience of transitioning from one area of life to the other area of life. So can you talk about that transition?
Yes, most definitely. So the transition that I make is basically from working my 9-to-5 job in education to actually being my own business owner. And so there I do share my story about what happened to me and what happened to make me realize, okay, this is where I'm ready to move forward into. And I kind of give you some steps along the way so that if there's something that you would like to pursue as your dream job, the book will help you with that as well.
For our audio only listeners, we have a paid ad for the next 1 minute and 33 seconds.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is in your time zone. At least on my time, it's after church, and I don't know about you, sometimes after church I'm just lacking energy. Courtney.
Yes?
Can you get me a one of them vitamins that your mama takes?
Here you go, Daddy.
Let me try one of these. Tastes pretty good.
My God, Kim! What do you have in there? It's made with vitamins B9 and B12. It's great for my overall health. It's made with pectin, a unique fiber in fruit peels. It's simple and delicious. Kim, did you know that more people search apple cider vinegar in the U.S. than tea? Google has 15,000 people searching that word every day in the U.S. alone.
Kim, how can more people get this gummy?
If you want to support the podcast, or if you're looking to improve your health, you can order these gummies at https://go.goli.com/becoming disciplined. Don't forget to use our promo code Becoming Disciplined.
Now, I know that you probably cover it in detail in the book, but can you give us like a shorter synopsis of when, not really necessarily Veronica specific, but just some words of wisdom on when someone should know that, okay, it's time to move on. Like it's like this 9 to 5 is going to kill me. When it's time for me to leave. When do we know that?
I would say when you start to feel anxiety of going into work, or if you're feeling panic attacks, or if you are dreading the night before going to work, it's definitely time. It's definitely time to start looking for other things, because probably by then you are exhibiting some signs that you probably should have started long before that. But definitely, if you still haven't caught on to it, those would be some, signs.
Okay. And now, how did you know what business to start, and how did you know where you could provide value in the marketplace?
Definitely. So for me, I always enjoyed working with students, even when I was in undergrad, or if I were doing just side work. I always enjoyed working with children, tutoring them, helping them to improve in a particular area. So I said, being a tutor would be something that would be great, to help others, because there's always children who are going to need help with math or reading, different subject area. So that was something that I really enjoyed doing. And I also am passionate about, just hair, natural hair care. So that was something else that sort of prompted me into, going into a business for that as well.
Awesome. Well, it's amazing. My dad had a similar story where he was older. He was born in 1924, mm-hmm. and he had been a teacher. He, when he got out of the military, he got his education to become a teacher, and he taught Spanish and history for a long, long time. And then the computers began to get a little more sophisticated, and the requirement to put, because when he started, you had your lesson plan in this book, where it was a paper book. Yeah. And you would have to record your lesson plan in this paper book, which he had no problem with. But then as things move on, everything was computerized, from the timesheets to the lesson plans and everything. And then on top of that, he had a principal. My father was in his 70s, And there was this principal that was requiring him to come out to the football games. Like, you have to be here for the football games. And as you know, you're not getting paid for that, like, but it's still a requirement that you have to be there for the football games. So he just resigned, and, he retired for the second time. But it was amazing. The same thing that you did, similar. He put an advertisement in the paper, and he began teaching people Spanish outside of his house.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he had people lined up, teaching, because so that way he could have the interaction with students, and he was making a little bit of money from it. And then he was having them in his house, teaching them Spanish, and he still had that fun. And he just took it outside of the box and all of the requirements that he wasn't ready for. So he did it. He did it back in the 90s.
Oh, that's cool.
Now, what challenges did you have when you first started your business? What challenges that you experienced that you didn't anticipate?
Oh, yes. So some of the challenges was, just figuring out, okay, what would be a good price for myself? How would I get the word out there? Would I be able to find clients? What to do if you come to a client, and how to really talk to them, things like that. So those were just some of the things that I kind of looked at as a challenge. And so I was, I kind of worked towards, making sure that I did some research on it, and figured out, okay, well, try this. If that doesn't work, try that. Trying different things to help me through those, those different obstacles.
Okay. Now, explain this part to me. A lot of times, like in the public school environment, it's a little different. But then when someone's paying you privately, did you ever have the experience where someone gets on the Zoom and then the kid is just acting crazy, and it's now your private business, and you got to be, like the mom might be paying you, and then the child's not behaving? Have you ever had anything like that? Or
I have a little bit. The one thing about it is, though, when that does happen, I try to make sure that the parent knows immediately, like right after we finish the session, I'll send a message to the parent and let them know, because, like you said, when the parent is paying, they want to make sure that the child is doing what they need to do. And if they're not, it's definitely important that they know, because they're there to learn, and I want to be respectful of both of our time, Yeah, so definitely.
Sure. Now, have you ever thought about trying to get more teachers underneath you, or expanding the business, or are you just pretty excited about what you're doing what you're doing right now?
I have thought about it. I haven't, looked into it thoroughly just yet, but I have thought about that. Yeah, I don't know when or if I do decide to do that, but I definitely have thought about it, because I do have quite a few teacher friends who still are in classroom teaching, and so that's something that I definitely have thought about.
Okay. Now, with your new book, what's the title of the new book?
Yes, and I have the book here. Can I show it?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, all right. So this is my book, and it's called How to Fire Your 9-to-5, 10 Steps to Break Free and Work on Your Own Terms.
All right, look at that. Beautiful cover.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, how long did it take you to write that?
Oh, wow. And so I'd probably say it took me almost the whole process of everything, probably almost a year.
Okay. Now, did you go to a workshop to kind of help you get started, or did how did this whole process initiate? How did it start?
Definitely. Prior to me doing this, I always felt like I wanted to write a book, and I had several different ideas, but I easily would get sidetracked because of just life, in general. So there was a friend of mine who we used to work with in Prince William County. And so she came to me, I think she had an event. And so I went to her event. I worked as a vendor there for Natural for You, for my other business. And so she was telling me, I'm working on writing a book. There's somebody who I have that could really help you. She's a book coach. And so so she relayed the information to me, and it worked out perfectly because before that, this was like right before, was it before the pandemic? It was before the pandemic. And I had been researching anyway on just different ways to start my book in different companies, different publishing companies. And I had talked to people on the phone to see what would be the best fit for me. And I ended up going with this particular book coach who worked out, and she really helped me to just stay focused.
Okay. Now, book coach, help me. Let's bring that out. Let's flush that out. So what was the name? Do you mind giving the name of the book coach?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Her name is Destiny Hawkins, and I could also send you the link as well. But she was really good, and she's from Houston, Texas, and so she was somebody who has helped, many other people start with just staying focused on what they wanted to write, and she was really good about just helping me to, just stay on track, completing from beginning to the end.
Oh, that's very good. That is very good. Now, have you gotten any testimonials? I think I saw a couple, but have you gotten any testimonials of people who feel free to move out of their 9-to-5 or start moving out of their 9-to-5 in order to start their own business? Yes.
And I do have, and actually in my book, I do have some examples of people who were able to do just that. So I share those stories along with my own to give people, confidence that it can be done.
That is good. We have a lot of people who are working and they are miserable in where they're at, and they're staying there just because of fear, or they're staying there for for insecurity reasons or security reasons, both ways. And I'm hoping that your book can free more people from expanding their horizons. Now, how do you, question from a fiscal standpoint, do you have any words of advice before someone just goes and quits their job? Or do you have any advice of like, when is the best time to make that move? Or should you work should your next job be a side hustle first before they go and make it a full-time thing? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. For me, I had my Natural For You business was like a side hustle for a long time. And then also, but I kind of did two things. So I had the side hustle, but I also saved money. And so I would say if you do have a side hustle, to start that way. If you don't have a side hustle, but you know what you want, but you don't want to make it a side hustle, you want to really start it, I would say definitely try to make sure that you save enough money for your bills, at least 6 to 8 months. Put that in a savings as an emergency savings, because there will be times where you definitely need it. And, or something could come up in general anyway, an emergency, and you want to have something that'll give you a little bit of a cushion. But you got to make sure that you sort of budget everything so that okay, this is how much I need to save. And then when you get to that point where you're comfortable, then you can branch out.
Okay. Now I noticed I think you and I follow the Budgetnista.
Yes.
We both follow the Budgetnista, and then also we're aware of Dave Ramsey. As we encourage people to save money, do you have a specific plan that you recommend, or is there, would you recommend the Budgetnista plan, the Dave Ramsey plan? What's a plan that has worked for you?
It's funny because I look at both of their different ideas, and they have such a wealth of knowledge and information on saving money. And I just sort of save what works for me, I can remember, especially when I was when I was teaching, I probably started saving, let's say, maybe $400 per month. Whereas another friend of mine was like, wow, that's a lot of money. I can't afford to do that. But, it's different for everybody. It could, you could say, well, I could save $500 a month. Somebody else could save $100 a month. So it's really just up to what you can afford. If you want to start off with doing $5 a week, you could do that. But you definitely want to see what works for your budget, and then go from there. Because
Okay.
I kind of just sort of take from just a couple of different things and I say, okay, you know what, let me try this and see how this works.
That's good. That's good. Kind of like the best of all worlds. You take a little bit of everything. Okay. All right. Now you talked about your other business. Can you elaborate? What is that other business and how can they find it? And who is the person in the market that you're trying to help with that business?
Most definitely. So my other business is Natural for You, and that is a company where I make natural hair and oil products, and it's primarily for women who need products for their hair. I use it on my hair, or if you want something that's more natural for your hair or for your body, I make those kinds of products. So for men can use it too, but it's primarily for women, of course.
Now, what is the name of your tutoring company?
Sure. My tutoring company is Reach Scholars Tutoring, LLC.
Okay.
And both of my businesses they have their own websites, but they're also on Facebook and Instagram. And so I can share that with you as well, too.
Okay. Now, for a student, because not trying to be arrogant, but I tested very well as a kid. But then when I hit junior high, I did not have all of the study habits and all of the study disciplines in order for me to keep pace with my academic program. My question is, as a person who is an educator and has educated people for over 19 years and now tutors students, what advice do you give to parents who are trying to help maybe a child that could be a little scattered in their thoughts? What advice do you give them to being regimented and structured in order to be a disciplined and sound student?
Definitely. And I think that, well, if you see that your child is one who definitely can easily sort of get distracted, give them breaks. Make sure, like if you give yourself, like, for example, if a child is on the computer or if they're doing work for about an hour, you make sure that they have like maybe a 15-minute break. Give them an opportunity to stand up, move around, jump around, get something to eat, because after a certain amount of time, if they can't focus, then it's not going to really benefit them. So make sure that they have opportunities to have breaks. And even sometimes you could even give them even less than an hour. You could say, you know what, maybe we could work 15 minutes tonight, 20 minutes tonight. Maybe we can do 30 minutes the next time. Make sure that they're building a stamina, because sometimes maybe even an hour is too much. But make sure that they, once you start to see they're getting fidgety, give them a chance to have a break.
That's very good. That is very good. Now we just have some more general questions. Our podcast is about discipline, so we're going to have some more general questions. What book outside of the Bible has been the greatest motivator, inspiration? What book outside of the Bible has shaped your life in the greatest capacity?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I can tell you that there's an author who I really love, and her name is Victoria Christopher Murray. And I love her stories, and I started following her once I started finding out about who she was in like the early 2000s. And what I loved about her was that she creates, she's like a Christian novelist, but she also writes stories that are realistic, so anybody could read them. And, it's like just stuff that's happening that you can relate to. And so novels by her, I really, really love. I would always suggest checking out those type of novels from her, because I just love anything that, I can relate to.
Okay. Now, I'm going to throw you for a loop here. I'm going to make my brother laugh as well. My brother, you're married to my brother, not my physical brother, but my spiritual brother. And my brother has a broad, eclectic taste palette of a lot of science fiction and a lot of Marvel comics and DC comics and athletics and everything. So my question is, did you like all of that stuff before you met John, or did you learn to fall in love with that stuff because you met John? So which was it the apple before the cart before the horse, or the horse before the cart? Because I've never, I see you always with him when he goes to these conventions and everything else. And I'm like, wow, John found the perfect person for him because she can go to all. So, but my question is, have you cultivated your love of all of that stuff before John or after John?
That's a really great question. There are a lot of things that I definitely knew about and loved. And so we connected on a lot of different things once we met. And then there are some things, like, for example, sports. I do love sports, but I didn't watch all of the different variety of sports that John would watch. But because I do love sports, I find that there are some things that are really enjoyable about them. So that would be an example. And then in terms of like the music, he has a wide variety of different types of musics that he likes, and so do I. So that kind of worked out. So a lot of it, like the interest was there already, and then it sort of branched out once I met him, if that makes sense.
Oh no, I get it. Now, but with comics though, I don't know a whole lot of sisters that like comics. You see what I'm saying? So
right.
Where did you come from? Okay.
Now, when I was in high school, I did love watching the X-Men. I did watch the X-Men comics, and I liked Wonder Woman, and I loved the Bionic Woman growing up. And I did watch a little bit of Star Wars, not all of them, but there were some particular movies that I did watch. So that's where some of that comes from.
All right, that's good to know. Because Kim had to get schooled on all that stuff after we got married. Because she didn't know any of that before we got married. So, but because of her love of me, she's learned to enjoy some of it. But I can't get Kim to stay awake for that latest Mandalorian. She can't make it through the Mandalorian. Every time that we watch the Mandalorian, Kim's doing one of these numbers, so she ain't made it through the Mandalorian yet.
And some of those shows, like, I did have to ask them questions, because I'd be like, now what's happening here? So I understand.
That's good. Now, at Becoming Disciplined, we examine discipline or organization in the following areas. I'm about to read off a whole list. And trust me, everyone we have on the show, I got to read it 2 or 3 times, so don't feel bad. So in this list, though, listen for your strong point, listen for your weak point, and then, or if you have a weak point, do you have a plan on strengthening that weak point in 2021 or 2022?
Okay.
And these are the areas we look at. We look at spirituality, mental discipline, physical discipline, emotional intelligence, financial discipline, time management, and home and data organization. So out of those, which one do you consider your strongest points? What is your undeveloped area? And in your undeveloped area, do you have a plan, or do you want to develop that area? So let me read it to you one more time. Spirituality, mental discipline, physical discipline, emotional intelligence, financial discipline, time management, and home and data organization.
Okay, so an area that I'm strong, and an area that I want to improve on, right? Okay, so I want to say financially, I feel like I'm strong financially. Like, I could always get better, but I think that I'm pretty good about saving money, and just looking into just the best ways, or setting up on that. So I think I'm not too bad on that. An area that I can improve on, and those other areas that you mentioned, I think I probably could improve on a little bit on all of them. I think you said
I can read them off again. And don't, like I said, I always have to read them off a bunch of times.
Okay.
Spirituality, mental discipline, physical discipline, emotional intelligence, time management, and home and data organization.
Okay. So I would definitely want to improve on just like the data organization and in terms of like, because I always like when I don't know, maybe Kim does it. She like when you watch those home shows and you see the people who are like doing really cool things with their home. And so I'm not like that. I'm like just real simple, basic. But when you watch these shows, the people can come up with just like putting colors together and all that kind of stuff. I have to like really research that. So I would love to improve on just that thing. Because it's cool to see people, take things and make them look really cool and organized, or put colors together and then create a color scheme that's really awesome. So I could always improve on that.
Okay. All right. Now, Ms. Veronica, what is going to be the next book that you write? What is your next topic that you're going to challenge?
Oh man, I have a lot. Definitely I have like a few ideas, but one of the things that I do want to do, I love to do realistic fiction. And because prior to us getting married, John and I had done, we had written scripts for doing plays at churches. And so I would love to create something maybe not like that, but something that is more of a realistic fiction type of story where people can relate to it, because that kind of really resonates with me. So the next story will be something that definitely people can relate to, and it's just kind of showing people coming out of a particular situation that maybe they felt hopeless in initially.
Right. I didn't know we had that in common. I love realistic fiction as well.
Yeah.
It has to be something to me, like an example within the comic book. That's why I love the early Batman, Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, because even though it was a comic booky, it seemed like it seemed somewhat plausible within the world. And that kind of fiction is what really appeals to me. If it gets too far out there, it's kind of hard for me to focus. And I wanted to also be Christian inspired, but at the same time, I think some Christians make things that they're so Christianese that it's no longer entertaining at all to people. So,
right.
There's a market out there. There is a market out there. Now, with all of that in mind, we have your hair business, we have your tutoring, we have your book. Is there anything else that you would want the public to know, or do you have any appearances or any book signings coming up that you want us to know about?
Yes, I do have an event that's coming up in the fall, and so that'll be to be announced very shortly. Right now, we're kind of working on the details of exactly where, location-wise, but there will be definitely something coming up in the fall of this year in terms of an appearance. And if there are people who, feel like their child needs reading or tutoring in an area with reading or maybe even math, ages 4 to 10, that's the age group that I work with and I have clients with. And so, I'll be looking for some new clients in the fall. So that could be something definitely that I like to share with people. And also if you need products that are for your hair and body that are natural, I have something for that as well.
Okay. All right. Now I want to ask one more question before we close out. Every time I've always seen you, Miss Veronica, you are always very put together. You always have a lot of poise. You always present yourself with a great deal of discipline. And you mentioned your mom earlier. Was it your mom that kind of, who instilled that in you, or was it a grandma, or was it mom? Where'd you get that from?
Thank you. Thank you. Definitely, I would say it was a combination of my mom and my aunts. When I moved, especially to North Carolina, it's it's kind of like this southern thing. I don't know what it is, like a southern charm thing, especially even like when you look at the way that we went to church, like we had to wear suits, everything had to be done up. Even if you went to if you were just going to the corner store, you need to put makeup on, that kind of thing. So, I definitely was molded and shaped. And I think that had a lot to do with the way that I always present myself, because, you just always want to make sure that you look a certain way. So I think that's where that comes from.
Okay, well, moms did a great job. Moms did a great
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Veronica, we can't thank you enough for coming on. You didn't have to do this. You didn't need to do this. We truly appreciate it. You have the last word. Do you have any closing thoughts for our audience? And just so you know, our audience, I lovingly call them the Get Better Club. They're not all Christian. They're people from 30 to 55 or so. And there's some outliers. There's people younger than 30. There's a few older than 55. But for the most part, they're 30 to 55-year-olds, and they're just trying to make it and be a better version of themselves. What advice do you have for them today? What closing thoughts do you have? And we just want to thank you as well for coming on.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity. And I would just say, for those people who, if there's something that you want to do, and you really are passionate about it, you can do it. Even though you may hear naysayers tell you different, go ahead and go with what you would like to do. Make sure you do a lot of research, make sure that it's very feasible. It's something that is in the market that people are going to be needing or wanting for a very long time. And once you kind of figure all of that out, definitely go for it. And you can buy my book to help you with that. And you can go to howtofireyou9to5.com for more information.
Oh, that is wonderful. That is wonderful. Thank you so much, Ms. Reid. I appreciate you.
If you enjoyed Veronica Reid as much as we did, please check her out at howtofireyou9to5.com. You can also reach her at https://privateonlinereadingtutor.tutorbird.com, or you could reach her at Natural for You on Facebook. Finally, don't forget to subscribe.